Picture this. You're dropping your lake amphibian or other seaplane into a quiet bay. Or you're a crop duster ripping along at 200 feet. And then suddenly, a drone cuts across. Who moves? Well, until now, the answer was pretty simple. The manned aircraft always had right-of-way. But the FAA just proposed a new rule where in some cases, the drone doesn't move. So today, that's what we're going to be digging into. Let's see what's really changing. Now, for a little bit of background. For decades, the right-of-way rules have been in 91-113. Airplanes yield to balloons. Powered aircraft yield to gliders. Everyone yields to aircraft in distress. And drones, they all the way at the bottom of that list, saying that every manned aircraft has always had priority over these little buggers. Now, the FAA is rewriting that. Why? Because they want drones to be able to fly beyond visual line of sight at scale. Not with one-off waivers, not with test programs. They want a framework that works for things like Amazon delivery, utility inspections, pipeline patrol, and more. That is Part 108. Now, the right-of-way flip. Here is the big change. If you're in a manned aircraft below 400 feet and you are not broadcasting on ADS-B out or some other electronic conspicuity transmitter, a Part 108 drone could have right-of-way over you. Now, these drones, they are still gonna yield in some places. Things like Class B and Class C airspace, airports and heliports, and over densely populated areas. But outside of these zones, the burden flips. If you're not broadcasting, you must avoid the drone. Now, why do pilots care? Think about who flies low without ADS-B. It's ag sprayers, helicopters on power line work, pipeline patrol, a lot of older general aviation airplanes, and plenty of seaplanes out there. These flights aren't edge cases. They happen every day. Even in my airplane, I very regularly turn my ADS-B off because when I first bought the airplane, there was people calling the Coast Guard because they thought somebody had crashed in the Bay of Green Bay. So pilot groups are already working on objecting. They say the detect and avoid systems that are in place isn't mature enough, and manned pilots shouldn't be forced to buy more stuff to keep their priority in the sky. Now drones, they're not getting a blank check, right? They're not just saying, well, drones have right-of-way now. They need to qualify under Part 108. They must meet the strict design and testing standards. They do have a maximum weight of 1,320 pounds, a maximum wingspan of 25 feet, and a maximum speed of 87 knots. They also need automated flight controls. That means they must stay stable. They must stay inside their safe envelope and resist going rogue. They need fail-safes in the event that the controller link drops out. They must loiter, return, or land safely. They need collision avoidance systems, anti-collision lights, navigation lights if they are big enough. They also must have power and propulsion requirements that are redundant. A single failure cannot cause a crash. Let's be honest. This thing loses one motor. Do you think it's coming down safely? No. And if you go to Facebook Marketplace, you'll find plenty of these for sale for $100 because of exactly that. They also need cybersecurity safeguards to prevent being hacked or jammed. And they must go through flight testing, developmental testing to validate the design, reliability testing to prove that they can fly their missions safely. And it's like 150 hours of test flight. I don't think I could get 150 hours out of this thing without it ending up in the dirt somewhere. The key requirement is detect and avoid. The rule says drones must detect and avoid other aircraft and provide an equivalent level of safety to see and avoid, like we currently have under 91-113. Now, it is performance-based. Not one single technology has been mandated. We could use radar, They could use ADS-B in, they could use optical sensors like this one has. They could use a cooperative or non-cooperative surveillance system. Whatever works, whatever provides the same level of safety as what we're currently operating with. But here's the catch. The drones are only required to avoid aircraft that are electronically visible or other drones. So if you're not broadcasting on ADS-B or some kind of electronic conspicuity, the FAA has placed the burden on the manned aircraft in this new rule proposal. That's why so many pilots are worried, because plenty of us don't have ADS-B out. And the rule says that if I don't have it, the drone doesn't have to yield. Now, one of the bigger questions is, does this apply to my off-the-shelf drone? No, it does not. The rule is not about consumer drones. Your Mini 3, like this one here, is part of 107 small UAS systems. It weighs about half a pound. It doesn't go through the Part 108 airworthiness acceptance, and it's not certified for beyond visual line of sight. The rule is aimed at large professional drones, delivery platforms, survey aircraft, utility inspection machines, stuff weighing hundreds of pounds with wingspans measured in feet, not inches. When I worked with the Department of Natural Resources a few years ago, we were working on a fixed-wing drone platform to go and look for hotspots, to go and look for fires so that we could find them sooner. This thing was intended to also look for people that were lost out on the ice so that we didn't have to risk a pilot. It would be equipped with thermal imaging systems, but we abandoned the project because nothing was certified for visual or beyond visual line of sight. And it wouldn't really make sense for us to get an individual waiver for every time we needed to put a drone up to try and find somebody who's missing or to try and track down that wildfire. This system, or this proposal, is to try and clear up those issues. So unless your Mini 3 is somehow operating under Part 108 authorization, which, let's be honest, it isn't, the rule doesn't apply to these small, dinky, off-the-shelf drones. So where a lot of pilots are getting concerned is that, the little 10-year-old up the road can go and buy something from Best Buy, put it up at 399 feet, and smack it into me, but I'm the problem because I didn't give way to the drone. That's not what this rule is about, okay? So the FAA's logic is pretty clear. With detect and avoid, like ADS-B and safe fail-safes, drones can share the sky safely. They say that this opens the door to innovation and efficiency, but pilots argue that it shifts too much risk and it forces manned aircraft to buy more equipment. By the way, ADS-B out is going to cost you about $2,000 for a certified aircraft. And it gives drones a legal right to hold their ground in the same altitude we already use. Now, what's next? This is just a notice of proposed rulemaking. No rules have been made yet. No changes have been made yet. Nothing is final yet. The public does have 60 days from, I believe, the posting of this video to comment. So if you fly low, this is your time to speak up. Because once this rule goes final, right-of-way in low-altitude airspace may never look the same again. So what do you think? Should drones ever have right-of-way over airplanes? Or should the burden always be on them as the new entrant, or as somebody, for lack of a better way to put it, has no skin in the game? So drop your thoughts in the comments. I'll be tracking this closely, and if, of course, you want more plain language breakdowns of the regs that actually affect us as pilots, make sure you hit subscribe, hit that bell icon so you can get notified, and as always, fly safe and keep it cheesy.